So here's an interesting question. Is the church green or not? Well, I'll start with an anecdote. In 2004, I went on a pilgrimage for a few months in Italy, and I stopped in Subiaco, where Saint Benedict, um, the first European monk, um, went into a grotto, into a cavern, and he stayed there for about 3 years, asking the question, God, what do you want me to do with my life? Well, I went there for 3 hours and I asked the same question, Lord, what do you want me to do with my life? And I was inspired with this great mission of talking about the environment in the church. So, 2005, come back from that pilgrimage and I go see my bishop. And I tell him, Bishop, I wish to have a mandate in creation care ministry. He looks at me and he starts laughing. And then he stops laughing and then he looks at me and says, Oh, you're serious? Well, in that case, no. Sorry. The church does faith education and takes care of the poor, but it doesn't do ecology. It doesn't get into environmental stuff. And that was a hard blow. And so the little crack of open-mindedness, he said, but if you have interesting readings on the subject, just bring them to me. So that's what I did for a few years. That was just to illustrate that there has been resistance about the environment. And so where has this resistance come from? Well, I'll give you an answer that comes from this great man I know, André Beauchamp. He wrote a book called The Church and the Environment. And in this book, it's published in French, Environnement et Église, he speaks about, like where this church is coming from with this aspect and everything it has to offer in its tradition and where should we be going. And I developed a great relationship because he's been trying to make space for the environment within the church since the 70s. And here I am with him giving a joint presentation just after Laudato Si, a few months after, in 2015. This is him and I in just walking together and obviously having lots of fun. So I've known him for quite a few years. And here's what he writes in the book to answer this question: how come the church hasn't taken care of the environment sooner? He says the environment makes no reference to God or the spiritual adventure. So, I mean, Christians are there because they want to develop their faith. They want to develop that little something that's invisible. So insisting on the fact that as Christians we should take care of the visible world, it's kind of counterintuitive. Also, Christians have not been concerned about the environment because it's a dirty, complex, and political subject. Okay, it's quite the topic. So let's look at those three. First one, dirty. I mean, one of the things I've noticed is that in every church I go, it's clean. And it's clean physically, but it's also clean symbolically because it's dirty outside. So I need like this clean place inside where I can then kneel and then pray. So to go in the church and then hear about, the pollution in the air, and then we have to clean that, and then the pollution in the water, and it's dirty and have to clean that, and the pollution on the soil, and we have to clean that. It just makes no sense in the first approach. Okay. Second reason, it's that it's complex. One of the things we want to do when we're in church is because we want to find clarity. And our interrelations, our relationships with other people are complex already. So through this chaos, we try to pray and find clarity. And now you're telling me that we should take care of the environment, which means that we have to dive into all of these complex subjects, like how an ecosystem works and all of these relationships between all the animals, the living and the non-living things, or climate change, which is impossible to explain in 1 minute. These are complex things. And so, I mean, Christians would rather just go into the simpler things. And finally, political. Now, I live in Quebec, and so we have uh, a very potent history when it comes to politics and the church. Church and state were excessively close since colonization up until the 1960s. And that past 100 years was really intense because all of the infrastructure, the schools, and the hospitals were all run by the Roman Catholic Church. And obviously the politics were related to that. And so the 1960s was the Quiet Revolution, and most of society just made that huge cut between church and state. And it kind of left lots of people traumatized. There's like this collective trauma of you can't mix church and state. And so and the environmental topic is very political because some political parties will really adopt an environmental point of view and others might simply reject it. So in the church, to start talking about the environment is quite tough in certain contexts because it's related to a political subject. So that's what André Beauchamp was saying about why, in the recent years, we haven't taken care of the environment. For those three reasons: it's dirty, it's complex, and it's political.